every voter in this state to help us win this race and put Kentucky first. The people who handpicked my opponent are not on your side. They don't care a whit about Kentucky. How do we get America back on track? We can take the reins of power away from Harry Reid and make this president accountable. Make me the majority leader, and Kentucky will lead America.
All right, Mitch McConnell, after his victory last night in the primary. Joining us now is our friend Larry Sabato. Larry, welcome, sir.
Thank you, Steve.
Always great to talk to you. I know it's a busy day for you. So, you know what I'm hearing this morning or this afternoon, but I heard it starting this morning was, oh, big defeat for the Tea Party. And they cite McConnell and some of the other races. And is the Tea Party influence waning? And maybe those are two separate questions and two separate issues. How do you read what happened last night?
Well, here's how I read it. I read the two most important races being in Kentucky and Georgia. Why? Those are the only two Senate seats held by Republicans that Democrats believe they have any chance of winning. All the other Republicans are safe. Now, the Democrats needed a break in one or both of those states. They didn't get it. They didn't get it. McConnell, as the incumbent and the minority leader and potentially the majority leader, won a big victory. That wasn't a close call. It was a big victory. Forget about Republican factions. Bevin endorsed him right away. Some of the groups, the conservative groups that had backed Bevin, endorsed McConnell right away. They know what's at stake in November. And then in Georgia, you got two candidates in the runoff, either one of whom can probably win the general election. Georgia is also a red state. It's not as red as Kentucky, but it's pretty red. So, to me, that overrides any of these other factional questions that obsess political analysts. To me, it's all about who wins in November.
Right, and when you say they needed a break, they needed one of the establishment folks to be overthrown. They needed a McConnell to lose and a Tea Party, or quote unquote, to come in. Correct?
That's exactly right. They needed somebody who was going to say something stupid, a la Todd Aiken or Richard Mourdock or Christine O'Donnell, or talking about some of the candidates from 2010, 2012. Let me quickly add, the establishment also lost Senate races in 2010 and 2012.
Right.
You had strong establishment candidates like Tommy Thompson in Wisconsin, who couldn't win a race after having been elected governor over and over again. So it isn't just the Tea Party losing Senate races. The establishment did too. But Republicans have learned from their mistakes.
All right, now in Kentucky, real quick before we get to elsewhere, Allison Lundgren Grimes, I've heard her, today. I'm a Kentucky gal. I'm from. Is that going to resonate? Is there a? Of course, there's a shot, but is there a legitimate shot for her to beat McConnell?
I don't believe so. The Crystal Ball is the only rating agency that has had this rated, had the Kentucky Senate race
locked up,
rated likely Republican for more than a year. Everybody else looks at the latest poll and says, "Oh my God, McConnell is tied with Grimes." You have to project out to the general election. Think about what McConnell is going to do, and actually started doing last night. He's changing her middle name from Lundgren to Obama.
Yeah.
It's going to be Allison Obama Grimes by November. Obama's popularity rating is between 32 and 35% in Kentucky.
Yeah, but does it matter in Georgia if it's Kingston or if it's Purdue?
I don't think so, unless they launch nuclear missiles at one another. You always wonder about a long runoff, and this is a long runoff all the way to July, almost the end of July, and they're going to spend millions attacking one another. So with that one proviso, I think either one of them can win a general election.
Against none.
Against Michelle Nunn,
yeah.
That's right.
All right, let's move on to Oregon. And what do you make of the whole Monica Wiebe situation and the attacks on her by reportedly, according to the reporters who got the tips, by Democratic operatives trying to slime her? She won the primary. Are they going to, just portray her as this crazy stalker, and will it succeed?
Well, I think they would be foolish to take that particular tack. Truth is, Oregon has become a pretty blue state. It's not as deeply blue as Washington, certainly not as deeply blue as California, but it's pretty dependably Democratic. So she's got a tough uphill race. But I think the wrong tack for the Democrats to take would be to go after her personal life. If you've seen some of her ads, she's very effective in those ads. She comes across very well. She's a good media candidate. You know, I got to tell you, Steve, and I've been around a long time, probably too long, but I am just sick to death of both sides' slimy personal attacks on the private lives of the other candidates. Half the time it isn't even true.
Yeah, no, well, absolutely. And I just found, I listened to a lot of media analysis, particularly on CNN yesterday, of what they're trying to do to Monica Wiebe and portray her as a emotionally unstable, out of control woman. And basically, even the women on the panel were kind of like, well, that's politics. But if you, as I said to Mary Madeline a little while ago, if you put the accent on the wrong L in Hillary and say it with wrong, then you're an anti-woman. You know what I mean? So the double standard is out there.
The double standard can be out there, but I think what both parties ought to do is to legitimately attack the other side when they get sleazy, or even in primaries. You see what's happening down in Mississippi. There's no way to justify what was done there. And
it's going to be Cotton and Pryor. I look forward to Cotton and Pryor. And I know we've talked about that race before and the crystal ball, but we're to talk about that one right now.
Yeah, well, again, Arkansas is so anti-Obama. You have to assume that Cotton will do well once he gets known. People forget he's just a freshman. Yeah. He has only been in politics for 2 years. He really isn't known outside his district, and I was surprised to learn he's really not that well known in his district. So he's got a lot of work to do. This is not like the 2010 race where Congressman John Bozeman, the Republican, slaughtered incumbent Democratic Senator Blanche Lincoln by 20 points. That was a different situation. Bozeman had been in for a while. He was a veteran. This is not the same kind of thing. And Pryor, of course, is running for his third term. His father was in the Senate. His father was governor.
Oh, yeah.
Pryor is very well known. So this is going to be a tough, close race.
Yeah, and I think some of the comments made by Pryor against Cotton's military background being a sense of entitlement for him, I think that might come back to haunt him. Very briefly, do you see anything? Do you see this veteran scandal eventually hurting the Democrats even more than they were already wounded going forward into the elections?
Well, it could. Here's the difference between this scandal and Benghazi or the IRS thing. They were interpreted partisanly. Have you heard anyone, Democrat, Republican, Independent, Liberal, Moderate, Conservative, who isn't outraged by this VA scandal?
No.
It's a unified scandal. Those are the ones that really hurt politically.
Yeah, that's going to be very, very interesting. Larry, I know you got to run. Always great to talk to you, sir. Thank you for making the time for us.
Enjoyed it, Steve.
Thank you. Larry Sabato, me too. Larry Sabato, ladies and gentlemen, here on the Steve Molesberg Show. Very, very interesting. And I think it's very, very important to keep everything that happened last night in perspective, put it in its right perspective. And I think Larry Sabato summed it up perfectly. The Democrats needed something to happen last night, and it did not happen. They needed to get someone elected like against McConnell or or down in Georgia. Actually, he said Kentucky or Georgia. I'm looking around for the exact quote, which I know I jotted down, but it was something to the effect of they needed somebody to say something stupid. Okay, here it is. They needed the Democrats needed a break in Kentucky or Atlanta to get a Tea Partier in there and then have that Tea Partier go on to say something stupid. I had the gist. I wanted to get the exact quote, and he's right. That's exactly what they needed. All right.